Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, I'm Audley Stephenson, and welcome to the most audacious podcast on the web. That's right, you've got it locked to the Audacious Living Podcast, and it's always a pleasure to be here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping you live your best audacious life ever. Be sure to connect with our social media channels. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our Twitter and Instagram handles are the Audacious Pod, and then on Facebook, it's the Audacious Living Podcast. I encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, share. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting that red notification button, and you'll be immediately connected to all things Audacious Living. Now, I am really happy today to be joined by Brenda Clunie, who is a conscious divorce coach. She'll be on today's podcast to talk about the work that she does with clients who are going through the process of either a separation or divorce. Now, separation and divorce is one of those things that many of us probably can relate to, experienced ourselves, know someone's gone through it, or again, they've gone through ourselves. I can tell you from firsthand experience that, and as many would probably know, that it's not a fun thing to go through at all. It's difficult, it's challenging, it's emotionally draining. It just plain sucks. And I know for me, if there was some way that I would have stopped the ride so I could jump off, I absolutely would have. But unfortunately, we had to go through that process, and it really wasn't that easy as just pressing the stop button. Now, a big part of Brenda's work is what she does to help her clients get through that process and be able to make it through that ride. And part of that is beginning to reimagine what their lives look like on the other side of divorce. Our lives do continue. You know, the divorce may signify the end of a relationship, but it doesn't signify the end of our life because we continue living. And as Brenda puts it, divorce and separation is a gift and really should be considered as an opportunity to create something that's both new and wonderful. The starting point to do that, however, begins with our own consciousness. Elevating our consciousness is about being more aware of who we are and how we show up in the world. And a higher consciousness makes it easier for us to take responsibility for our actions and behaviors and how we connect and treat others. Because, the more we elevate our consciousness, the easier those interactions with others become. And you can certainly see that relevancy in the divorce and separation process. If you become more conscious of your behaviors, then you're consciously more aware of how you treat yourself and others. This is an approach that Brenda supports wholeheartedly, and we get into more fulsome explanation really about what our conscious actions are, how to develop that inner courage, and so much more. Like I said, Brenda and I, it was a simply wonderful conversation. It was a beautiful chat, and it's really about a very important and relevant topic that I think all of you as listeners will appreciate. So, without any further ado, here's my conversation with Brenda Clunie. Enjoy.
Just for our hope to be taken away. So let's be optimistic and hope that that's going to happen, and then eventually we can have this conversation in person.
Oh my gosh, imagine that, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea of people in person, it seems foreign, right? In some respect.
It seems like a dream right now, but we'll make it a reality soon.
I love it. So, well, actually, maybe what we're talking about is how has the lockdown pandemic been for you specifically?
Well, it's definitely been a challenge for all of us, no doubt. And to say otherwise would be not being completely honest. Possibly one of the hardest things for me is the human interaction. I'm very, very social. I have a large family. I have a very large circle of friends, and that an ability to be able to see definitely has been a challenge. The other challenging part is that I've been so blessed to be able to travel.
Okay.
And traveling, not being able to do that, definitely has brought a sense of frustration.
Yep.
But also realizing all the gifts that it brought us.
Yeah.
It first of all allow us to just remind ourselves how we literally take our health for granted.
Man.
We've taken our freedom for granted, the ability to step on a plane at any given moment and go anywhere freely.
Yeah.
I think we're going to savor life
Mm-hmm.
and the experiences that we are about to experience after the lockdown so much more. Our experiences are going to be so much richer because we're going to be so grateful.
That's right. That's right. No, Brenda, you're exactly right. And for me, it's been such a period of reflection, right? And I've always been busy and all over. So to slow down a little bit and to look at family and loved ones that you're here with all the time, and you say, yeah, you know what, this is all right? And what are we doing Friday night? Let's watch another movie. Like, we've had so many movie nights, I've lost count of them, right? But prior to the pandemic, it's just never happened. So
exactly, and it just made you prioritize life so differently, and really emphasize on the importance of health. It's a gift that we get every day, and it's a gift that is not being given to, unfortunately, many people who suffered tremendously through this pandemic. So I think it's just really reminded me of the gift that it is to be in a gratitude state. I already did that before. I always had the intention of making gratitude my emotional home.
Yes.
And when I did that, when I came to that realization of like the power that I have when I make gratitude my emotional home, it truly has changed my life, because now, as I feel frustrated because I can't travel, I find, or I'm angry at whatever circumstance, I find a reason to be grateful for at the moment. And it changes your state. It changes your state immediately. And it's available to all of us. It's free. It can change our state within seconds if we ask ourselves, what can I be grateful for? It doesn't have to be something big. It could be like, my nails are so pretty. And you're talking about something like you put your focus into something that you feel grateful for, and then you forget, what was I upset about? Like, oh yes, I remember, my sister told me. And then you find yourself, wow, I reacted instead of responding to that situation. It allows you to pause and reflect on what it is that actually triggered you to be upset in the first place.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a springboard for all sorts of other good things to follow after that, right? Because it just, if you're in that state, like, okay, you view things differently, you approach people differently, it affects how you manage your relationships with people differently as well. So I think that's a wonderful place to have your emotional home, and a good starting point for sure. Talking about the pandemic, I'm wondering in terms of how you had to pivot. Pivot was a big word that we used it a lot, over the course of 2020 into 2021. From professionally, how did you pivot? How did that change the work that you do as a conscious divorce coach?
Right.
And maybe you can sort of talk about what that a conscious divorce coach is. That's actually interesting.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, the pandemic did bring a lot of stress in a lot of relationships that may have already had been fragmented, if you will, prior to the pandemic. And then the stressors of that the lockdown has brought and the pandemic has brought has increased the rate of separation and divorce, unfortunately. So I am busier than ever. I do have lots of people needing our services, the divorce and separation industry, if you will. I don't like to call it an industry. I like to call it a source of guidance, of let me show you how it can be, how consciously, and I'll explain what conscious divorce coaching is allowing someone to make conscious decision as they end an extremely important chapter of their lives.
Gotcha.
It's no one gets married with the hope of getting divorced.
Of course not.
We get married obviously with the dream and the intention of lasting forever. And when that dream ends, it shakes us. It's one of the most stressful times for anyone to go through. And it not only affects ourselves, it affects, of course, every single member of our family, our friends. It just shakes you in every way. And when you do it in a conscious way, when you are conscious about the decisions that you make that are not necessarily for you, but for your spouse, for your children, then you can create a new chapter when you are holding the pen as you write it. And you're not reacting, but you're responding in a conscious manner.
Got you. I love that. And I appreciate you explaining that, because it really emphasizes the importance of why we need to be in that conscious state and not make decisions from an emotional or irrational standpoint. What do those steps look like to get to become more conscious, if you will? What does that look like, or that process?
Right. So really, consciousness is being self-aware and knowing that you do not have control over other people. You have no control over your ex. You have no control over anything. You have control of how you react and you respond to people and situations. And knowing that you have the control allows you to be able to make choices that are healthy choices. What's wrong is always available. But when you're conscious, you focus on what's right. You focus on the lessons. You focus on, yes, this relationship ended. It may not have been the best of ending.
Right.
But what about all that beautiful time that was spent together? All of the beautiful, the family that was created, the beautiful experiences, and how that chapter of your life allow you to become the person that you are right now. What are the beautiful lessons that we can get from that marriage?
Yeah.
What are the beautiful gifts that we can get from our spouse? And then we get the lessons, we then move forward, creating a new life for ourselves.
I love that.
Concentrating on the beauty instead of the last chapter or the last year or the way that it ended. Because that's the reason why you ended up being married to that person.
Sure.
And you definitely, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for that difficult situation. I was married for 23 years to a wonderful man who I created the most beautiful two girls with. And I will be forever grateful for that experience. The Brenda that sits in front of you wouldn't be here if I didn't have that marriage that was beautiful in many ways. And I'm fortunate.
And I can see the appreciation as you talk about that relationship, right? You're smiling, you're happy, you're showing gratitude to what you have. We just talked about gratitude a moment ago, right?
Absolutely.
And I know we were talking about it in the context of the pandemic, but I think what you just alluded to or demonstrated how important that gratitude is in all aspects of our lives.
100%. And there's a better place to really make gratitude your emotional home as you're going through the separation and divorce. So when the decision was made to separate, I decided to honor the relationship as we separated. And I'm proud to say that we did it in a loving, respectful way. My relationship with him is the second most important relationship that I will ever have. My children first, and then second. He not only was a very important partner of my life for a period of my life, he continues to be an important person in my life and the father of my children. So nourishing that relationship, it's a verb. It's not like, okay, it ended and now I no longer have to nourish that relationship. It's like any other relationship in your life.
Right. It's an ongoing process and it's work. It's a verb, right? Very much so.
Absolutely.
There's a big part of that allows you to do that. So to be conscious and have that self-awareness is sort of that emotional healing, right? And even forgiveness, if you will. Without those elements, it's difficult to move on, isn't it?
Without forgiving yourself first.
Yes.
It's an invitation. The end of a marriage is an invitation to ask yourself, how did I show up to that relationship? Take ownership of what you brought to the relationship, because it takes two to tango. Perhaps the ending may have been, quote, the fault of somebody, or the decision was made by not necessarily a mutual relationship. But how did you show up to the relationship? How can you grow from knowing what you contribute or not? And then really do a self-reflection, because it's an invitation for growth. And once you do that self-reflection and you realize the place where you can forgive yourself, then you have the gift to give to others. Because you can't forgive anybody else if you cannot forgive yourself. You can't give to anybody else what you don't have within you. It's an invitation to redefine the definition of love. What is and what isn't. And ask yourself, do I love myself the way that I like to be loved? Do I love myself unconditionally? Do I accept myself for all that I am?
Yes.
And then you realize, well, I kind of do, but I really don't. I really want to. Well, then how do you think that the other person could love you unconditionally?
Yeah, fair question. It's a fair question. And I love all of those questions that we're asking ourselves, because it's really forcing us as individuals to look at, okay, so where am I at? How did I contribute? What can I do better? What are the gaps? What I did well too. Like, let's not only talk about, what did I do well and what do I want to keep as part of me and continue to do? So when you're asking those questions and you're self-reflecting, I can't speak enough how important it is. And I talk oftentimes of looking at ourselves first. And again, we're talking about divorce. This applies to just about any aspect of our lives, looking at ourselves first. And so I can't speak enough about the significance of self-reflecting and looking in the mirror.
It's essential, regardless of the stage that we're at in our lives. And that's why the pandemic was so crucial for us, because it invited us to look within. It invited us to have the time as well to do more reading, to do more self-discovery. So you're exactly right. Divorce and separation doesn't mean that it's the only invitation that we have. Even if we are in a relationship, in a beautiful, loving relationship, believe it's something that we have to do at least once a year, every few months. It should be a self-discovery questionnaire. Where am I at? Am I in congruency with my values?
That's a great question.
How can the universe end up sending you health? If you manifest and you really, really meditate and manifest for health, but you're out of alignment with your diet and your exercise, how can we expect that to happen even if we manifest it? How can we manifest true love if we do not have true love within ourselves? How do we nourish relationship with others if that's what we value, yet we gossip, yet we react instead of responding? It's an invitation to really look at ourselves and say, am I confusing the universe? Because I'm ordering a filet mignon, but then I changed my mind and I said to the waiter, no, wait, no, I want the burger now.
Yeah.
So that's not being in alignment, and that's not being in congruency.
Yeah.
And again, the process of separation, divorce could be such a gift. And that's what conscious divorcing or separation means.
Gotcha.
Doing in a conscious way where you no longer carry a victim crown.
Right.
When you take ownership of your life and you wear a king or a queen crown.
Amazing. Brenda, one of the things I absolutely knew that I absolutely wanted to talk to you about is courage and how important that is as a launch forward to that next stage of what your life is. I want to show if you can sort of touch on just the significance of courage and what that can do to us as a way of freeing ourselves to go off and do great things.
Well, I think that the first thing that we need to find courage is to really look in the mirror.
That self-reflection thing again, right?
Go back to self-reflection, because nothing really changes unless we change. And when we change, the world around us changes. And when we are in a relationship that is no longer serving us for whatever reason, no fault of anyone, we must find the courage to really listen to our intuition and let fear be a compass instead of stopping us from being able to move forward.
That's great.
trust that you will have the ability to be able to, because at the moment, everything looks dark. You have to find that courage within you that the alternative is too high of a price for your soul. Is to ask those deep questions. What is love to me? What is self-love to me? If my situation doesn't change, will I be happy?
Right.
And act based on the answers of those questions.
Mm-hmm. That acts part, Brenda, that's the tough one for people, right? Like we can talk about it and we can plan it out, we can write it out, we can game plan it, but we still have to act. And I think for a lot of people, they know that, this isn't working. This situation isn't what it needs to be, but I still haven't acted. So that means nothing's changed, really. And that's the key, really, too.
There is a big misconception about staying in a marriage, in an unhappy and healthy marriage, for the sake of the children.
Right.
And I'd like to differ, because what kind of a message do you want to send your children? That you sacrifice yourself, you sacrifice them, providing them with an unhealthy, toxic environment? Is that the definition of love that you want your children to have? You want that to happen in God forbid, they end up in a situation where the relationship doesn't serve. What do you want your children to have? The courage to be able to love themselves enough, to love their children enough, to love their spouse enough, to identify that the relationship can no longer continue, but it can continue in a different context. We will forever be a family.
Sure. Yeah.
Under different contexts. He will forever be the father of my children. He will be forever one of my best friends, somebody who I love and respect tremendously. Mm-hmm. And we've been able to provide an emotional home for our children. When my children leave, of course, it saddens me tremendously. But I know that they leave from a container of love to another container of love.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh, Brenda, I love that so much. It's amazing. It's it's funny when you're talking about the courage. It's almost a bit of coming into your own, right? Because we're now redefining ourselves, or who we were, who we are to be, or who we want to be, and there's a process in that too, right? And figuring that out. The work that you've done with clients, what does that look like for them? Figuring out where they want to be.
So at the beginning, it's grieving.
Mm.
Grieving the relationship, the end of the relationship. Separation and divorce brings a sense of loss of identity, mm-hmm. and a sense of belonging as well. There's so many shifts that happen, as not only within the family itself, but also with extended family and in the social circle as well. So identifying who you are individually and remove those labels that we may have attached, that the society may have given us, or we acquire and we put on ourselves, such as I'm the mother of, I'm the wife of.
Right.
Who are you really? And most important of all, who do you want to become? Yeah. And in that process of finding out who you want to become, then of course is the forgiveness. Is the forgiveness of others, of letting go of the past.
Yeah.
And most important of all is letting go of the dense negative emotions that may be holding you back, such as sadness, anger, resentment. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And realize that being angry at somebody is like drinking poison and expect the other person to die. So really it's all about self-discovery, self-love, work on yourself, do the work yourself. How can we let go? We go through a process of letting go of those dense emotions, because that's extremely important. It allows the healing process to go so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
And through NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, there are different methods that we can go into the subconscious mind and release those dense emotions so that you can be freer and lighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
and create a new life for yourself,
Mhm.
a life of opportunities, of happiness, of beauty.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The perspective thing is just is it's incredible how much that shapes and how we see things and view things. So you want to go back to, so this relationship has ended. It wasn't all bad. There's some wonderful, beautiful things that come out of that. And if you shift your focus to what that is, and it's almost like, okay, so it was this, but now it's that. We had the mishap. You're sitting on Google. I'm sitting on Zoom. Like, what's going on? Where are we? Right? Is that a bad thing, or is this, an opportunity to develop patience? Right? I think you joked, right? So it all comes down to our perspective.
It's all about perspective, and it's what is this showing about myself? Because when we are triggered by anyone or anything, we wouldn't be triggered unless we had it within us.
Sure.
So it's an opportunity to say, okay, what's the reflection here? I'm getting impatient because so-and-so said that. So where are the areas of my life where I'm showing impatiently?
Right.
And stop and observe. And know most of all is that regardless of your ex-spouse,
Mhm.
of how he or she reacts, you are in charge of how you respond.
Yeah.
You're
Absolutely.
the one in control. It's like, and that awareness alone gives you so much power. It allows you to remove that victim crown that I was talking about and walk around life proud that you're wearing a real queen crown.
Mm.
That you're no longer expecting validation from others.
Right.
That you know who you are. And you don't need to you don't need the validation of your spouse to say that you're doing the right thing or not. You just know that you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You don't need that role, that title, any of those things, right?
No.
I've heard you say several times, divorce is an invitation to grow, and for many, it's seen as a failure. Oh, I failed at this; it didn't work out. But there again, the perspective, if you alter that and see the opportunities, I think that's where you can find true success.
Absolutely. It was interesting. I did a post about when Bill and Melinda Gates
Mm-hmm.
announced the end of their chapter,
Yep.
their divorce, and how we view Bill Gates as one of the most successful people on the planet based on his financial success. Now we're going to view him as a failure because they decided that the marriage had come to an end? Of course not. He continues to be a successful human being. She continues to be a successful human being. They just ended a chapter of their lives. And so we look at it with that perspective. We can then change the narrative that society has given divorce as something negative, as something to be ashamed of.
Right.
It's all about perspective. And that's what I'm passionate about, removing the stigma and negativity about divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate about that. It will remove so much guilt from people being in a situation where they feel that in their core that's what they should do, but they feel so much shame and that what would society think, a broken home. Please, let's remove that from the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Broken home means living in a toxic environment.
Yeah.
Affecting your kids long term by watching that's the definition that they're showing that love is, when they're not treated with the parents are in disalignment with themselves.
Yeah.
That's broken.
Mm-hmm.
We should remove that from the vocabulary, and that stigma should be really erased, and the negativity surrounding it should be.
Yeah, no, and so much, to getting caught up in what people think it is, or their viewpoint, or their opinion, and the reality is, no one else is in that relationship with those two individuals, so the outside opinions just have no bearing or relevance to anything, right? And so to be guided by what other people think, that who aren't in your situation or around you, that's it's the wrong way of doing things, right?
Again, it's letting go of the need of external validation. Are you going to stay in a healthy marriage because other people think you should? Well, who's living your life?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right. You're the only. It's your life. It belongs to you. What do you want to do with it? and how do you want to live it, right?
Absolutely. And again, doing the discovery of who you really are allows you to no longer need someone else's approval.
Yep.
You can be authentic to who you really are.
That's right. Well, that's the opportunity, and that gives you the opportunity to recognize your gifts, right? You think of so many situations where either people leave a relationship or a situation or a job, and they go off to do something bigger, better, and something they never thought they could do because of the situation that they were in previously. So, like, go back to what you said earlier. It really is an invitation, right? Because it really, truly is.
It really is an invitation to so many different possibilities. One of the things that I tell my clients is to take some time by themselves before they jump into another relationship.
Yeah.
Because if you don't stop and work on yourself and rediscover who you are, you will end up having the exact same relationship with a different face. One of my very favorite people on the planet, Dr. Joe Dispenza, says, people often ask me, how do I find true love? He says it's very easy. Take a piece of paper and write down all of the qualities you want your ideal partner to have. Don't stop writing, like keep writing all of the qualities, and then go and become that person. That's how you're going to attract that person. When you're vibrating at the same frequency, when you have the qualities that you expect the other one to have, when you have the loyalty, they'll be loyal. When you're kind, they'll be kind. Become that person first.
Oh, it's amazing. Awesome. Brenda, I've so loved this conversation. It's in line with everything that I wanted to talk to you about. So first off, appreciation. Thank you for being here and chatting. One last thing I just wanted to ask about, and I guess I sort of feel like we've touched on this before, because I was thinking along the lines again with developing ourselves. We're being bold, we're taking chances, we're being audacious, if you will, which is kind of what we talk about here, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just the significance of exercising that boldness, the significance of taking those chances, and it's funny because on one hand, if you're sort of betting on yourself or banking on yourself, I don't know if you're really taking a chance because you know who you are, right? You've done that work.
It's beautiful to find out that the power really has always been within you.
Yeah.
It's letting go of old stories that were perhaps in our subconscious mind since we were children, because that's when we normally acquire all of that limiting beliefs in childhood. And to really ask ourselves, is that story really true? And then you say, like, holy cow, no, because the evidence shows otherwise.
That's right.
The evidence shows that I'm extremely capable of doing Y and Z. Right. Okay, so I'm not very good at C.
Right.
Okay. But the fact that you're saying that I'm not capable, it's not true. You come to realize all of the lies that we've been telling ourselves, and we replace them with what is actually true, and we replace them with stories and set of beliefs that support us to live in alignment with the values that we have in our lives.
Very much a conscious act. That's all the conversations, the questions that we're asking ourselves, that period of self-reflection, developing our self-awareness, all things that we've talked about. It's raising that level of consciousness, and once we can do that, we can make the right decisions that are guide our life. It can send us in the direction that we see ourselves and where we want to go, and it can help us be much more audacious.
Absolutely, live more audacious by living consciously.
Right. Awesome. Brenda, this is amazing. Thank you for this. Please let our listeners know where they can catch up with you, learn more about your work, or connect with you.
Thank you. I'm on Instagram at Brenda Clunie. That's my handle. Please reach out to me, send me a DM. I love to connect with my tribe. I love to serve. I'm passionate about helping others redesign their lives know that they have the power within and they can create a beautiful future for themselves. Co-parent with grace and peace, and also create an environment for the children where they can live in a beautiful, healthy, emotional home.
Amazing, amazing. Brenda, thank you for this. It's just been awesome. Great conversation, beautiful insights, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you and have another chat, hopefully in person very soon.
Yeah, imagine that. Like, again, talking in person seems so foreign, but that'd be great to do. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you so much.
Back we are here on the podcast, and big shout out and thanks goes out to Brenda for being here, and as well as a truly delightful and enlightening conversation. You know, there's so much power, and we possess so much power when we can make conscious decisions that are free of emotions and any other distractions. And actually, to go back to something Brenda had said is, you know, we can create a whole new chapter where we're the ones holding the pen and taking full control of the situation. So again, Brenda, thank you for that and for being here. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, you certainly can do so by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com, enter your email address, and you will be immediately alerted every time new content comes out. I also send a big shout out and thanks to our listeners for the tremendous ongoing support. It's always appreciated, and we do this for you, and we'll continue to do so, and want to say thank you and acknowledge all the great input and feedback and suggestions that I get from you. We've reached the end of the episode, so until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.